Opening hook, 80 words. Blood pooled under her knees as the third knife went in. Claire Jensen didn't scream, she couldn't afford to. Between her shaking hands and a dying Marine's chest was just 2 inches of space and everything that mattered. "Walk away, lady," the voice hissed again. She pressed harder on the wound instead. The fourth blade hit her shoulder. Still, she didn't move. By the time the sirens finally wailed close enough to matter, 7 pieces of steel had torn through her body, and she was still standing. Before we go further into Claire's story, hit that subscribe button and stay with me until the end. Drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see just how far this story travels. Now let me take you back to where it all began. Claire Jensen's shift ended at 11:30 p.m. By 11:47, she was buying eggs she'd be too tired to cook. 14 hours on her feet, 28 years old. An EMT who'd already logged more death than most people see in 3 lifetimes. Her uniform was wrinkled, her ponytail had surrendered somewhere around hour 9, and her spine felt like it was held together with spite and caffeine. The cashier didn't look up from his phone. "That'll be $23.50. She handed him 30. "Keep it." "You okay, lady? You look..." "Long shift." He nodded like he understood, but he didn't. Nobody did unless they'd held someone's hand while they bled out waiting for a helicopter that came 5 minutes too late. Claire grabbed her bag and pushed through the door. That's when she heard it. A cough. Wet. Rattling. The kind that came with blood in the lungs. Her hand went to her phone. Her feet went toward the sound. "Hey," she called into the alley. "You need help?" No answer. Just another cough, weaker this time. The alley was dark. She pulled out her phone, turned on the flashlight. The beam caught him halfway down. Young guy, maybe 22, slumped against the wall with his hand pressed to his side. His shirt was dark with blood. "Sir?" Claire dropped her grocery bag and ran. "Sir, I'm an EMT." He looked up. Close cropped hair. Sharp jaw. Eyes that still held focus despite the blood loss. Military. Had to be. "I'm fine," he said. His voice was tight with pain. "Just need a minute." "You're bleeding through your fingers. That's not fine." She knelt beside him. "Let me see." "You should." He coughed and blood flecked his lips. "You should go." "Not happening." "Move your hand." He did. The stab wound was deep, still pumping blood. Liver, maybe, or close to it. "What's your name?" "Ethan." He winced as she pressed both hands against the wound. "Ethan Cruz." "Okay, Ethan. I'm Claire. I need you to stay with me while I call this in." She reached for her phone with one hand, keeping pressure with the other. That's when she heard the footsteps. 2 sets. Coming from the street. Not running. Just walking. Deliberate. Claire looked up. 2 men in dark hoodies. Hands in pockets. Moving toward them like they had all the time in the world. "Well, damn," the taller one said. "Boy Scout called for backup." "I didn't," Ethan started, but couldn't finish. He was fading fast. The shorter man pulled his hand from his pocket. Light caught the blade. "Walk away, lady. This doesn't concern you." Claire's heart slammed against her ribs. Every nerve in her body screamed run. But under her palm she could feel Ethan's blood pumping out. Without pressure, he had maybe 5 minutes. Maybe. "I'm an EMT," she said. Her voice didn't shake. "Good. This man needs medical attention. I've already called 911. She hadn't. Her phone was still in her pocket. The taller man laughed. "No, you didn't." They started walking closer. "Please," Claire said. "He's dying. Just let me help him." He should have thought about that before he decided to play hero. The shorter one spat on the ground, before he opened his mouth about things that weren't his business. Ethan stirred against her. "Claire." His voice was barely a whisper. "Run." She should have. God, she should have. But she looked down at this kid because that's what he was. Just a kid in uniform, and thought about every patient she'd lost. Every call where she'd shown up 30 seconds too late. Every set of eyes that had gone empty while she'd tried to bring them back. "No," she said. The shorter man stopped. "What? No." Claire pressed harder on Ethan's wound. I'm not moving. Lady, you don't understand. I understand you're going to have to go through me. The taller man pulled out his knife. Your call. They came fast. The shorter one lunged, low blade flashing. Claire tried to twist, keep her body between him and Ethan, but she wasn't a fighter. The knife caught her just below the ribs. The pain was immediate, white hot, electric. Claire gasped, but didn't scream. Couldn't scream. If she screamed, she'd lose focus. Move! The man grabbed her shoulder. No! The second stab hit her shoulder. She felt the blade scrape bone, felt her arm go weak. Her hand slipped on Ethan's wound. She forced it back down. Stop! Ethan's voice cracked. Please just take me, let her go. Shut up! The taller man kicked at Claire's ribs. And you, why won't you just... Because he's dying. Claire's vision was blurring. Because someone has to. The third blade went into her back. Then the fourth. Claire's body was screaming now, every nerve on fire, but she kept her hands on Ethan's wound. Blood hers, his both made everything slippery. Hard to maintain pressure. She pressed her elbow against her own side, trying to slow her bleeding while keeping Ethan alive. What is wrong with you? The shorter man yanked her head back by her ponytail. His face was inches from hers. What are you, stupid? No. Blood filled her mouth. She spatted at him. I'm just not a coward. The fifth stab hit her side. The sixth, her back again. Claire! Ethan was crying now, actual tears running down his face. Please, please, just go. I'm not worth... Yes, you are. Her voice was getting weaker, harder to push words out. Everyone's worth it. Cops. The taller man stepped back. I hear sirens. We gotta go. She's still. Now. Footsteps running, fading. Claire tried to focus on Ethan's face, tried to tell him to stay awake, but her mouth wasn't working right anymore. Hey! Ethan's hand found hers pressed on top where she was still holding his wound. Hey, stay with me. Claire. Claire, look at me. She tried. God, she tried. But the darkness was so heavy. You're okay, he was saying. Help's coming. You're going to be okay. You have to be okay. Claire. Claire, please. Red and blue lights, voices shouting, someone pulling at her. Ma'am, we need you to let go. No. Claire pushed their hands away weakly. He's bleeding. He needs... Ma'am, you're bleeding. We need to... Him first. She tried to keep her hand on Ethan's wound, but arms were pulling her back. Strong arms. Professional. Promise me. Promise me you'll save him. A paramedic's face appeared above her. Young guy. Kind eyes. We're saving both of you, but you need to let us work. He's a Marine. Claire's tongue felt thick. He's just a kid. I know, and because of you, he's alive. Now let us help you. Claire's fingers finally let go. The moment they did, her body went limp. She was on the ground. When had that happened? 7 penetrating wounds, someone said above her. Possible collapsed lung. Get me 2 large bore IVs and... Claire. Ethan's voice desperate. Don't you dare die, you hear me. Don't you dare. Someone get the Marine under control. No, let me go, Claire. She wanted to tell him she was okay. Wanted to tell him to calm down, save his strength. But the words wouldn't come. BP's dropping. She's going into shock. Where's the surgeon? En route. ETA 2 minutes. 2 minutes. That was funny. 2 minutes ago she'd been buying eggs. Now she was dying in an alley. Life was weird like that. Claire. The kind-eyed paramedic was back. Can you hear me? Squeeze my hand if you can hear me. She tried. Wasn't sure if she succeeded. Good. That's good. Stay with me. What's your last name? Jensen, she managed. Claire Jensen. Okay, Claire Jensen. You did something incredibly brave tonight, but now I need you to be brave one more time. Can you do that? Could she? She was so tired. Tired before this. Tired before tonight. Tired from carrying 14 hours of other people's emergencies. Tired from watching people die. Tired from trying to save everyone and failing. But Ethan was alive. She could hear him shouting somewhere close by, still fighting, still alive. Yeah, she whispered. I can do that. The ambulance ride was fire. Every bump sent fresh agony through her body. Someone kept talking to her, asking her questions, telling her to stay awake, but the words were just noise. Claire? Claire, open your eyes. She did. A woman in a paramedic uniform leaned over her. That's it. Keep them open. Tell me about your family. You got family, Claire? No. The oxygen mask made her voice muffled. Just me. Friends. Work friends, not real ones. Boyfriend, girlfriend. Too busy dying to date. The paramedic smiled. You're not dying. Not on my watch. You hear me? Claire wanted to believe her. She really did. But she could feel her body shutting down, piece by piece, system by system. The cold creeping in from her fingers and toes. The Marine, she said. Ethan, is he? He's in the ambulance behind us. Vitals are stable, because of you. Good. Claire's eyes were closing again. That's good. No. Eyes open, Claire. Stay with me. Tell me why you did it. Why didn't you run? Couldn't. Why not? Because. Claire coughed and it felt like knives in her chest. Because I'm tired of being too late. Tired of showing up and they're already gone. Tired of zip codes and response times deciding who lives and who dies. I was there. I was right there. So I stayed. You're one hell of an EMT, you know that. I'm a terrible EMT. Good EMTs stay safe. Good EMTs don't get stabbed 7 times. Good EMTs save lives. You saved his. Did I? Everything was getting fuzzy. Are you sure? Because I can't feel my hands, and I think that means... Claire. Claire, look at me. The paramedic grabbed her face. Look at me. You're going into shock. Your body's trying to protect itself. But I need you to fight it. Can you fight it? I'm tired of fighting. I know. But just a little longer. Just hold on a little longer. The ambulance stopped. Doors flying open. Being rushed through corridors. Bright lights that hurt her eyes. Voices everywhere talking over each other. Female, approximately 28-7 stab wounds. 1 to the liver, 2 to the back, penetrating. BP 70/40 and dropping. Get her to, or 3 now. Claire. A new voice. Older. Calm. A woman in surgical scrubs leaned into her field of vision. I'm Dr. Martinez. We're going to take care of you. Ethan, Claire said. Corporal Ethan Cruz. Where is he? He's in OR 1. Dr. Patterson has him. He's stable. You're lying. Dr. Martinez smiled slightly. I don't lie to my patients. He made it here because you refused to move. Now I need you to let me return the favor. Can you do that? Claire wanted to argue, wanted to make sure, wanted to see Ethan with her own eyes. But the mask was back over her face, and someone was pushing something into her IV, and the world was getting soft around the edges. Don't let me die, she whispered. Please, not like this, not alone. Dr. Martinez squeezed her hand. You're not alone. I'm right here. And you're not dying. Not tonight. Not on my watch. You can't promise that. Watch me. The last thing Claire heard before the anesthesia took her was Dr. Martinez's voice, steady and sure. Scalpel. Let's bring her back. 7. Claire woke up in pieces. First came the sound. Beeping. Rhythmic. A heart monitor. Her heart monitor. Then came the pain. Not the sharp, immediate pain of being stabbed. This was deeper. Duller. The pain of a body that had been taken apart and put back together. Then came the light. Too bright. She tried to turn her head away, but her neck wouldn't cooperate. Easy. A voice. Female. Soft. Don't try to move yet. Claire's eyes focused slowly. A nurse stood beside her bed, checking the IV bags hanging above. Where? Claire's voice came out as a croak. Her throat was raw. Intubation. She'd been intubated. UCSD Medical Center. ICU. You've been out for about 18 hours. 18 hours. Claire tried to process that, tried to remember. The alley, Ethan, the knives, the blood. Ethan, she said. Corporal Ethan Cruz, the Marine. Where is he? The nurse smiled. He's okay. He's in recovery. Dr. Patterson had to remove part of his liver, but he's going to be fine. You're sure? I'm sure. He's been asking about you every hour, driving the nurses crazy. Relief flooded through Claire so strongly she started crying. Just silent tears running down her face. She didn't even try to stop them. Hey, it's okay. The nurse grabbed a tissue, dabbed at Claire's face. You did good. You saved his life. I almost got us both killed. But you didn't. You're both alive. That's what matters. Claire closed her eyes. How bad? You want the truth. Always. The nurse pulled up a chair. 7 stab wounds. 1 punctured your liver. 2 hit your kidney. 1 collapsed your left lung. You lost almost half your blood volume. You went into shock in the ambulance. You coded once on the table. I died. For about 90 seconds, Dr. Martinez brought you back. Claire thought about that. She'd died. Actually died. And she couldn't remember any of it. No white light, no tunnel, no dead relatives welcoming her, just nothing and then beeping. What about the guys who did it? The nurse's expression darkened. Police are still looking, but there's a detective who wants to talk to you when you're ready. I'm ready now. You just woke up, and I'm awake. Send him in. The nurse looked like she wanted to argue but nodded. Let me check with your doctor first. She left. Claire lay there staring at the ceiling tiles, counting the holes in the acoustic panels. Anything to not think about the alley, about the knives, about how easily everything could have gone differently. The door opened. A man in a rumpled suit walked in, late 40s, tired eyes, the look of someone who'd seen too much. Miss Jensen, I'm Detective Morrison. How are you feeling? Like I got stabbed 7 times. He almost smiled. Fair enough. I need to ask you some questions about last night. Are you up for that? Yeah. He pulled out a notebook. Tell me what happened. Start from the beginning. So she did. The convenience store, hearing Ethan, finding him in the alley, the 2 men, her decision to stay. Morrison listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a moment. You're either very brave or very stupid, he finally said. Probably both. Why didn't you run? Because he would have died. And you almost died instead. Most people would have run, called 911 from a safe distance. I'm an EMT. Running isn't really in the job description. Morrison studied her. The Marine Corporal Cruz, he's been telling everyone who will listen that you're a hero. Says you saved his life. I just did what anyone should have done. But most people don't. He closed his notebook. The men who attacked you, we think they're connected to a smuggling ring. Military equipment, weapons. Cruz stumbled onto something he wasn't supposed to see. He was going to testify. They were going to kill him to keep him quiet. Yeah, and you got in the way. Claire's stomach dropped. Are they going to come back? Try again. We don't think so. You spooked them. They ran, and now Cruz is under protection. But I need you to look at some photos. See if you can identify them. He pulled out his phone, showed her a series of mugshots. Claire studied each one. Most of them blurred together. But then she saw him. Him, she pointed. The shorter one. He's the one who pulled the first knife. You're sure? I'm sure. I'll never forget his face. Morrison nodded, made a note. What about the other one? She looked through more photos, stopped on one. Maybe him. I'm not 100%, but maybe. That's helpful. Thank you. He put his phone away. We're going to catch them. I promise you that. Don't make promises you can't keep, Detective. I don't. He stood. Get some rest, Miss Jensen. I'll be in touch. After he left, Claire was alone with her thoughts. The beeping of the heart monitor, the hiss of oxygen, the dull throb of pain that the drugs could only partially mask. She'd died. For 90 seconds she'd been gone, and now she was back. For what? To go back to her apartment that she was never in. To work 14-hour shifts, saving strangers and watching some of them die anyway. To be alone because she was too tired and too traumatized to let anyone close. The door opened again. Claire expected another nurse. Instead, she saw him. Ethan Cruz, in a hospital gown, one hand gripping an IV pole, moving slowly but moving. A nurse hovered behind him, clearly unhappy about this. "Sir, you really shouldn't be out of bed." 5 minutes. Ethan's voice was rough but determined. "Please, just 5 minutes." The nurse looked at Claire. Claire nodded. 5 minutes, the nurse said firmly, "then back to your room." She left but stayed visible through the door window. Ethan made his way to the chair Morrison had vacated, lowered himself down carefully. For a long moment they just looked at each other. Two people who'd almost died in an alley. Two strangers connected by blood and choice. "You're alive," Ethan finally said. "So are you. Because of you. Because of the surgeons. I just kept you alive long enough for them to do their job. You took 7 knives for me." His voice cracked. 7. They told me. 7 times you got stabbed and you never moved. I'm an EMT. It's what we do. No. Ethan leaned forward, winced at the pull of his stitches. No, it's not. I've seen EMTs work. They're brave. They're dedicated. But what you did that wasn't protocol. That was something else. Claire looked away. I couldn't let you die. Why? Because I'm tired of people dying when I could have saved them. So you almost died instead. Yeah, stupid, right? No. Ethan's eyes were bright. Not stupid. The opposite of stupid. Claire laughed, but it hurt her chest. I died for 90 seconds on the operating table. Pretty sure that counts as stupid. You came back. Not like I had a choice. You always have a choice. You could have stayed dead. Could have just let go. But you fought. You came back. He paused. Why? Claire thought about it. Really thought about it. Because you were alive. And if you were alive, then it was worth it. Ethan was crying now. Just quiet tears streaming down his face. I don't even know you. Yeah, you do. You know I'll take 7 knives before I let you die. That's pretty good knowledge of a person. He laughed through his tears. Can I ask you something? Sure. What were you buying at the store? What was in that grocery bag you dropped? Eggs, milk, bread, spinach. Were you going to make something? Probably not. I was too tired. I'd have eaten cereal and gone to bed. Ethan nodded slowly. Next time you want eggs, let me know. I make really good scrambled eggs. Marine's secret recipe. Next time. Yeah. When we're both out of here. When we're both healed up. Let me make you eggs. It's the least I can do for the woman who died for me. I didn't die for you. I died for 90 seconds and then they brought me back. Close enough. He stood carefully. I should go before that nurse has my head. Ethan. He turned. Don't feel guilty, Claire said. About any of this. You were the victim. I made my choice. Own yours, don't own mine. He nodded, but she could see he didn't believe it yet. He would, though. Eventually. I'll come back, he said. Tomorrow, if that's okay. Yeah, that's okay. After he left, Claire closed her eyes. The pain meds were kicking in again, making everything soft and distant. She thought about eggs, about a Marine she barely knew making her breakfast, about promises made in hospital rooms. She thought about dying for 90 seconds and choosing to come back. And for the first time in a very long time, Claire Jensen thought that maybe, just maybe, she was exactly where she was supposed to be. 3 days passed before Claire could stand without help. The physical therapist was a woman named Rosa, who had zero patience for self-pity and an endless supply of terrible jokes. She appeared every morning at 7, yanked open the curtains, and announced that pain was just weakness leaving the body. I'm pretty sure pain is just pain, Claire said on day 4, gritting her teeth as Rosa helped her take 5 steps from the bed to the chair. That's the spirit. Complain your way to recovery. I'm not complaining. I'm providing feedback. Uh-huh. Rosa helped her sit, adjusted the pillows. You know what your problem is. Stab wounds. Besides that, you're used to being the one helping people. Now you need help and you hate it. Claire wanted to argue, but Rosa was right. Every time a nurse came to change her bandages or help her to the bathroom, Claire wanted to disappear. She'd spent her entire adult life on the other side of this dynamic. Being the patient felt like failure. It's temporary, Rosa said, reading her face. You're young, you're strong, you'll heal, but you have to let people help you. That's the deal. What deal? The human deal. We help each other. You help that Marine. Now we help you. Someday, you'll help someone else. That's how it works. After Rosa left, Claire sat in the chair and stared out the window. She could see the parking lot cars coming and going, people living their normal lives, going to work, going home, buying groceries without getting stabbed. The door opened. She expected a nurse. Instead, Ethan walked in, moving better than yesterday, carrying a plastic bag. You're up, he said. 5 whole steps. I'm basically running marathons. He smiled and pulled a chair closer. I brought you something. If it's flowers, I'm allergic. It's not flowers. He reached into the bag and pulled out a box of Legos. Not a kid's set, a complex one, the kind that took hours. Claire stared at it. You brought me Legos. Marine-approved physical therapy, small motor skills, hand-eye coordination, patience building, plus it's the Millennium Falcon, so that's cool. I've never built Legos in my life. Perfect time to start. He opened the box, spread the instruction booklet on her lap table. We can work on it together, if you want. Claire picked up a piece. Her fingers trembled slightly. The nerve damage from the shoulder wound made fine motor control difficult. She tried to connect 2 pieces and dropped one. Here. Ethan picked it up, handed it back. Try again. No rush. She did. This time it clicked into place. There you go, he said quietly. They worked in silence for a while. Claire's hands shook. Pieces fell, frustration built. But Ethan never pushed. Just handed her pieces when she needed them, pointed to the instructions when she got lost. Why are you doing this? Claire finally asked. Building Legos, because it's fun. No, this. Coming here every day, bringing me things. You don't owe me anything. Ethan set down the piece he was holding. You're right, I don't owe you. But I want to be here. Why? Because when I close my eyes, I see you taking those knives. Over and over. I see you refusing to move. I see you bleeding out in that alley because of me. Not because of you. Because of the guys with the knives. Same thing. They came for me. You got in the way. I chose to get in the way. I know, and I can't figure out why. He leaned back in his chair. I've been a Marine for 4 years. I've seen people do brave things. But what you did, I've never seen anything like that. You didn't have training. You didn't have backup. You didn't even have a weapon. You just stood there and took it. I didn't have a choice. Everyone has a choice. You could have run, should have run. Any rational person would have run. Claire connected another piece. Then I guess I'm not rational. No, you're something else. He paused. The detective told me about the smuggling ring, about why they came after me. Did he tell you? Yeah. I saw them loading crates at the base, military equipment, weapons. I thought they were authorized, but something felt wrong. The timing, the secrecy. So I followed one of the trucks, took photos, sent them to my commanding officer. And they found out. Yeah, someone tipped them off. I don't know who. But 3 days later, I'm leaving a bar and 2 guys jumped me in an alley. If you hadn't shown up, but I did. Why were you even there at that store at that exact time? Claire thought about it. My shift ended at 11:30. I was tired, needed food. That store was on the way home. It was just random chance. Yeah, I don't believe in random chance anymore. Ethan picked up another Lego piece, turned it over in his hands. My mom used to say that God puts people where they need to be. I never believed her. But now, don't. He looked up. Don't what? Don't make me into something I'm not. I'm not an angel. I'm not a miracle. I'm just an EMT who made a decision. A decision that saved my life. And almost ended mine. Not exactly heroic. That's exactly what makes it heroic. Claire dropped the Lego piece she was holding. It skittered across the table. I need you to stop. Stop what? Putting me on some kind of pedestal. Looking at me like I'm special. I'm not. I'm just tired of watching people die, okay? That's it. That's the whole story. I've held too many hands while people bled out waiting for ambulances. I've done CPR on kids who never had a chance. I've told too many families that their person didn't make it. And I was there. Right there. With you. And I could do something. So I did. Her voice cracked on the last word. Tears burned her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "That doesn't make you less special. That makes you more. You don't get it. Then help me get it." Claire took a shaky breath. Every patient I lose, I carry them. Every single one. I remember their faces. I remember what they said. I remember how their blood felt on my hands. And I tell myself that next time I'll be faster, smarter, better. Next time I'll save them. But there's always a next time. And sometimes I'm not enough. You were enough for me. Was I? Because you almost died anyway. Because I almost got us both killed. But you didn't. We're both here. Both alive. Both healing. For now. But what about next time? What about the next person who needs help? What if I freeze? What if I run? What if... Claire. Ethan reached across the table, put his hand over hers. You won't. You don't know that. Yeah, I do. Because people who run don't take 7 knives. People who freeze don't keep pressure on a wound while they're bleeding out. You're not wired that way. Claire looked down at his hand on hers. His fingers were warm, solid, real. I'm scared, she whispered. Of what? Of going back out there. Of getting another call. Of not being enough again. Then I'll be scared with you. Deal. She almost smiled. You don't have to do that. I know, but I'm going to anyway. The door opened and a nurse walked in with medication. She raised an eyebrow at their joined hands but didn't comment. Time for your antibiotics, Miss Jensen. Ethan pulled his hand back, stood. I should go, let you rest. Will you come back tomorrow? Wild horses couldn't keep me away. He paused at the door. And Claire, you are enough. You've always been enough. After he left, the nurse handed Claire her pills and a cup of water. He's here every day, you know. Sometimes twice a day. The other nurses think it's romantic. It's not romantic. He's just grateful. Uh-huh. Keep telling yourself that. She checked Claire's vitals, made notes on her chart. Your pressure's good. Temperature's normal. Dr. Martinez wants to move you out of ICU tomorrow. To where? Regular recovery floor. You're doing well enough that you don't need constant monitoring anymore. Progress. That should have felt good. Instead, it just felt like one more step toward going back to her regular life. Her empty apartment. Her exhausting job. Her loneliness that she'd gotten so good at pretending was just independence. Can I ask you something? Claire said. Sure. Have you heard anything about Corporal Cruz about his case, the guys who attacked us? The nurse's expression shuddered. I can't really talk about other patients. But he's okay. His recovery is going well. He's doing fine. Better than fine, actually. Marines are tough. She finished her notes. Try to get some rest. Physical therapy will be back this afternoon. After she left, Claire picked up a Lego piece, tried to connect it to the growing structure. Her hands shook less than before. Progress. Small but real. She thought about what Ethan had said, about being scared together, about being enough. Maybe he was right. Maybe she was wired differently. Or maybe she was just too stubborn to run when running made sense. Either way, she was alive. And so was he. That had to count for something. The afternoon brought Rosa back more painful exercises and a visit from Dr. Martinez. You're healing remarkably well, the surgeon said, reviewing her chart. The lung is re-expanding nicely. No signs of infection. Your labs are improving daily. When can I go home? Eager to leave us. Eager to sleep in my own bed. Dr. Martinez smiled. Another week, maybe. We want to make sure you're stable, that you can manage basic activities without assistance, and you'll need to set up home health care, someone to check your wounds, help with daily tasks. I live alone. Then you'll need to make arrangements. Family friends. Claire thought about her contacts list. Work colleagues she barely knew outside of shift changes. Her landlord. The pizza place that knew her order. I'll figure something out. Figure it out soon. I'm not discharging you to an empty apartment with no support system. After Dr. Martinez left, Claire lay back and stared at the ceiling. She'd been living alone for 3 years. Had convinced herself she preferred it that way. No one to answer to. No one to disappoint. No one to lose. But now lying in a hospital bed, unable to walk more than 5 steps without help, the loneliness felt less like independence and more like abandonment. Her phone buzzed. A text from a number she didn't recognize. It's Ethan. Got your number from your chart. Hope that's not creepy. Just wanted to check in. Claire stared at the message. He'd gotten her number from her chart. That should have annoyed her. HIPAA violation. Privacy breach. Instead, she found herself smiling. She typed back, totally creepy, but I'll allow it. 3 dots appeared. Then, good, because I forgot to tell you something earlier. What? You're not going home to an empty apartment, not right away. What are you talking about? My mom, she's a nurse. Retired now, but she raised 4 boys. She's tough, she's kind, and she already said you can stay with us while you recover. No arguments. Claire read the message 3 times. I can't do that. Why not? Because I don't know you. Because that's insane. Because I can't impose on your family. You're not imposing, my mom insisted. She said any woman brave enough to take 7 knives for her son is welcome in her home. You told your mom. Of course I told my mom. She cried for an hour. Then she called the hospital 17 times, trying to find out your room number. Then she showed up with enough food to feed an army. The nurses love her now. Claire didn't know what to say. The offer was generous. It was also completely overwhelming. Think about it, Ethan texted. No pressure, but the offer stands. She set the phone down and closed her eyes. A stranger's family wanting to take her in, help her heal. It didn't make sense. People didn't do that. People kept to themselves, minded their own business. Except she hadn't. She'd stepped into an alley and refused to move. And now her life was tangled up with a Marine she barely knew and a family that wanted to help her. Maybe Rosa was right. Maybe that was the deal. The human deal. Help and be helped. Give and receive. Let the walls down long enough to let someone in. The thought terrified her. Evening brought Ethan back this time with a woman who could only be his mother. Short, round, with warm brown eyes and the kind of smile that made you feel safe immediately. Claire Jensen, she said, sweeping into the room like she owned it. I'm Maria Cruz, Ethan's mother, and before you say anything, you're coming home with us and that's final. Mrs. Cruz, I appreciate the offer, but no buts. I raised 4 Marines. I've dealt with everything from broken bones to PTSD. You think 7 stab wounds scare me? Please. She pulled up a chair, sat down, folded her hands. Now, tell me what you need. Medical equipment, special diet, physical therapy schedule, I'll handle all of it. I can't. You can and you will. Do you know what you did for my son? Maria's eyes filled with tears. You stood between him and death. You took knives meant for him. You almost died for him. And you think I'm going to let you go home to some empty apartment with no one to help you? Absolutely not. Claire looked at Ethan. He shrugged. When Mom makes up her mind, there's no point arguing. I don't want to be a burden. A burden? Maria laughed. Honey, having someone to take care of is a privilege. I've been taking care of people my whole life. It's what I do. It's who I am. And right now, you need taking care of. So that's what's going to happen. What about your other sons? They're grown, living their own lives. The house is too quiet now. You'll be doing me a favor, really, giving me someone to fuss over. Claire felt the tears coming and couldn't stop them. I don't understand why you're being so nice to me. Maria reached over and took her hand. Because you were nice to my son when it mattered most. Because you're hurt and alone and you need help. Because that's what we do for each other. We show up. We help. We take care of our own. But I'm not. You're not what one of us. You saved my son's life. That makes you family. End of discussion. The certainty in her voice left no room for argument. Claire looked at Ethan again. He nodded slightly. Okay, Claire whispered. Okay, thank you. Good. Maria stood, kissed Claire's forehead. I'll coordinate with your doctors. Find out what equipment we need. Set up the spare bedroom. You just focus on healing. Everything else is handled. After they left, Claire lay in the dark and tried to process what had just happened. A family she didn't know was taking her in. A Marine she'd saved was visiting her daily. Her entire life had pivoted on 5 minutes in an alley. She thought about the eggs she'd been planning to buy, the cereal she would have eaten, the empty apartment she would have gone home to. She thought about choice, about the moment when she could have run but didn't. And she thought about what came next: recovery, healing, learning to accept help from people who owed her nothing but gave her everything anyway. The human deal, Rosa had called it. Maybe it was time to start believing in it. Her phone buzzed one more time. Ethan again. My mom's already reorganizing the guest room. Fair warning, she's going to feed you constantly. It's her love language. Claire smiled in the dark and typed back, I think I can handle that. Good, because she's already planning tomorrow's menu. Hope you like empanadas. I've never had empanadas. Then you're in for a treat. Get some rest, Claire. Tomorrow's a new day. She set the phone down and closed her eyes. For the first time since waking up in the ICU, she didn't feel alone. And maybe that was its own kind of miracle. The next morning brought Detective Morrison back. He looked even more tired than before, his suit more wrinkled, his eyes carrying the weight of bad news. We found them, he said without preamble. Claire's heart jumped. The men who attacked us. Yeah, both of them. Arrested them at a warehouse in Tijuana. They were trying to move more stolen equipment across the border. Are they talking? Singing like canaries, actually. Trying to cut deals. They've given us names, dates, locations. This is bigger than we thought. Military personnel involved, civilians, a whole network. And Ethan. We'll need to testify, but he's safe now. They're more worried about saving their own skins than coming after him. Relief washed over Claire so strongly she felt dizzy. That's good. That's really good. Morrison nodded. It is. But I need to talk to you about something else. The media's gotten wind of the story. They want to talk to you, interview you. There's a reporter from Channel 8 who's called the station 6 times today. Tell them no. I did. But they're persistent. And they're painting you as a hero. The EMT who took 7 knives for a Marine. It's the kind of story that gets traction. I don't want traction, I want privacy. I understand. But you should know the Marine Corps wants to honor you, present you with a commendation. They're talking about the Distinguished Public Service Medal. Claire's stomach dropped. No. No. I didn't do this for recognition. I did it because it was the right thing to do. I don't need a medal. I don't need media attention. I just want to heal and go back to my life. Morrison studied her for a moment. Most people would jump at this opportunity. I'm not most people. No, you're really not. He put his notebook away. I'll tell them you're declining interviews, but the medal that's going to be harder to turn down. The Corps doesn't offer these lightly, and refusing might offend them. Then I'll be offensive. I don't care. He almost smiled. Fair enough. I'll let them know. He stood to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, Miss Jensen, what you did was extraordinary. Whether you want recognition or not doesn't change that. After he left, Claire sat with her anger. Why couldn't people just let it go? She'd made a choice in an alley. That was it. That was the whole story. She didn't need parades or medals or news interviews. She just needed to heal, to figure out how to go back to being an EMT without the weight of this night crushing her every time she responded to a call. The door opened. Ethan walked in, saw her face, and stopped. "What's wrong?" "Detective Morrison was here. They caught the guys." "That's good news." "Yeah. And apparently the Marine Corps wants to give me a medal, and the media wants to interview me, and everyone wants to make me into some kind of hero." Ethan closed the door behind him, pulled up a chair. "And you don't want that." "No, I don't want that. I just want to be left alone." "You won't be. Not after this. This is the kind of story people remember. I don't want to be remembered. I want to be forgotten." "Why?" "Because I'm not a hero. I'm just a person who did something. And now everyone's going to expect me to be this brave, selfless person all the time. And I'm not. I'm scared and tired and broken, and I don't know how to be what people think I am." Ethan leaned forward. "Then don't be what they think. Just be you. And if that's not enough, it's enough for me." Claire looked at him. Really looked at him. This kid, because he still seemed like a kid to her, even though he was only a few years younger, who'd almost died in an alley. Who visited her every day. Who brought her Legos and hope and the offer of family. "I don't know how to do this," she said quietly. "Do what? Let people in. Accept help. Be part of something bigger than myself. I've been alone for so long. I've gotten so good at it. And now you don't have to be alone anymore, if you don't want to be. What if I mess it up? What if I disappoint everyone? What if—" "Claire." He took her hand. "You can't mess this up. There's no script, no rules. You just show up. That's it. That's all anyone's asking. Just show up and let us be here with you." She wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe it could be that simple. But years of self-protection, of keeping everyone at arm's length, of convincing herself she was better off alone, all of that fought against the idea of opening up. "I'll try," she finally said. "I can't promise I'll be good at it, but I'll try. That's all I'm asking." They sat in silence for a while, hands still joined across the hospital bed. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the room in shades of orange and gold. "Ethan." "Yeah. Thank you. For not giving up on me." He squeezed her hand. "Never. Not now. Not ever." And for the first time since waking up in the ICU, Claire thought maybe, just maybe, she could learn to believe that. Claire left the hospital on a Thursday morning exactly 9 days after she'd been wheeled in bleeding and barely conscious. Maria Cruz pulled up in a silver SUV, Ethan in the passenger seat, both of them wearing expressions that said they'd fight anyone who suggested this was a bad idea. A nurse pushed Claire's wheelchair to the curb, while another carried the bag of medications, wound care supplies, and discharge instructions. "You have my number if anything changes," the nurse said. "Any fever, increased pain, redness around the wounds, you call immediately." "I will," Claire said, though the idea of calling anyone still felt foreign. Maria took the bag, thanked the nurse, and helped Claire into the back seat with the kind of efficiency that came from years of practice. Ethan climbed in beside her while Maria drove. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Like I got hit by a truck." "That's the spirit. Honesty. I like it." The Cruz house was 20 minutes from the hospital, a modest ranch-style home in a neighborhood where kids played basketball in driveways and neighbors actually knew each other's names. Maria pulled into the driveway, and before Claire could even unbuckle her seatbelt, the front door opened and 3 men emerged. "My other sons," Ethan said. "Brace yourself." They were all clearly Marines, or former Marines, the same sharp posture, the same watchful eyes. The oldest looked to be in his mid-30s, the other two somewhere in between him and Ethan. "Boys," Maria called out, "give her some space. She's not a science experiment." But they didn't give her space. The moment Claire was out of the car, the oldest stepped forward and offered his hand. "Diego," he said, "Ethan's oldest brother. Heard a lot about you. Good things, I hope. The best things. Thank you for saving our baby brother's life." "He's not a baby," Ethan protested. I'm 23. You're the baby, the second brother said, grinning. I'm Marco, and this is Luis. We're the middle children. Ethan gets all the attention. Not my fault I almost died, Ethan said. True, but you're definitely milking it. Marco looked at Claire. He's been impossible. Get me water, I'm recovering. Make me food, I almost died. It's exhausting. Despite everything, Claire found herself smiling. The easy banter, the obvious love between them, it was so different from anything she'd known. Her own childhood had been quiet, lonely. Her parents had divorced when she was 8, and she'd bounced between them like a package neither wanted to keep long. Come on, Maria said, taking Claire's arm gently. Let's get you inside before these idiots make you regret accepting our invitation. The guest room was at the back of the house, painted a soft blue with white curtains, and a bed that looked more comfortable than anything Claire had slept on in years. Maria had set up a bedside table with water, medications, tissues, and a small bell. You ring that if you need anything, Maria said. Day or night, I don't care. You ring it. I can't just ring a bell every time I need something. Yes, you can. That's literally why I put it there. Maria fluffed the pillows, adjusted the blankets. Now are you hungry? I made chicken soup. Also empanadas. Also rice. Also. Mom, Ethan said from the doorway. Maybe let her settle in first. Settling is overrated. Food is important. But Maria stepped back. Okay, I'll bring you soup in an hour. You rest. Bathroom is across the hall. Yell if you need help getting there. After they left, Claire sat on the edge of the bed and tried to process the reality of where she was. A stranger's home. A family that had adopted her without hesitation. It didn't make sense. People didn't do this, except they did. They were doing it right now. She lay back, carefully mindful of her stitches, and stared at the ceiling. The house was noisy in a way her apartment never was. She could hear the brothers arguing about something in the living room. Heard Maria's voice cutting through the chaos, telling them to take it outside. Heard laughter. When was the last time she'd been somewhere with laughter? An hour later, Maria returned with soup, empanadas, and a determination that would have made drill sergeants nervous. Eat, she commanded, setting the tray across Claire's lap. All of it. You're too skinny. I'm not too skinny, Maria repeated firmly. You need strength to heal. So, eat. Claire ate. The soup was rich and flavorful, the empanadas perfectly crispy. She'd meant to save some for later, but before she knew it, the plate was empty. Good, Maria said, taking the tray. Now rest. Ethan will check on you in a couple hours. He doesn't have to. He wants to. Let him. It helps him process what happened. Maria paused at the door. You saved my son's life, Claire. But you also gave him purpose. He was drifting before this, going through the motions. Now he has something to focus on, someone to help. So let him help you, for his sake, not just yours. After she left, Claire thought about that. About how saving Ethan had apparently saved him in more ways than one. About how her choice in that alley had created ripples she was still discovering. The afternoon brought Rosa, the physical therapist who'd apparently been hired to do house calls. Surprise, she said, walking into Claire's room with her familiar no-nonsense expression. Thought you could escape me. Think again. How did you... Mrs. Cruz called the hospital, asked for the best PT on staff. They gave her my number. Now let's see how you're moving. The next hour was pain. Rosa put Claire through exercises that made her stab wounds feel fresh all over again. Arm lifts, leg stretches, core engagement that made her want to cry. You're doing good, Rosa said. Better than most people at this stage, but you're also pushing too hard. I can see it in your face. You're trying to heal faster than your body can manage. I need to get back to work. Your work will still be there. Your body won't heal faster just because you want it to. You have to be patient. I'm not good at patient. I noticed. That's why I'm here. To make sure you don't hurt yourself trying to be Superwoman. Rosa helped Claire back to the bed. You know what your real problem is. I have a feeling you're going to tell me. You think needing help makes you weak. But it doesn't. It makes you human. And the sooner you accept that, the faster you'll actually heal. After Rosa left, Claire lay there and tried to believe it. Tried to accept that needing help wasn't failure, that accepting support wasn't weakness, that letting people in wouldn't destroy her. It was harder than taking 7 knives. Evening brought Ethan with the Lego Millennium Falcon and a determination to finish it. "How was PT?" he asked, setting up on her bedside table. "Torture. Rosa's tough, but she's good. She helped Diego after he got hit by an IED in Afghanistan, rebuilt his whole shoulder. She didn't mention that. She wouldn't. She's not big on sharing. Says her patients' stories aren't hers to tell." He handed Claire a piece. "Here, let's work on the cockpit." They built in comfortable silence for a while. Claire's hands were steadier than yesterday. Progress. Small but real. "Can I ask you something?" Ethan said. "Sure. What are you going to do after you heal?" "Go back to work. What else?" "But after everything that happened, can you just go back to normal?" Claire set down her Lego piece. "What else would I do?" "I don't know. I've been thinking about it a lot, about what happens next, for both of us." The detective said I might have to testify. That could take months. And even after the trial, I don't know if I can just go back to base and pretend nothing happened. You have to. That's what we do. We move forward. Do we? Or do we just pretend we're moving forward while actually staying stuck? The question hit harder than Claire expected. "You think I'm stuck?" "I think we both are. I think we both almost died, and now we're supposed to just go back to our lives like that's a normal Tuesday. But it's not normal. Nothing about this is normal." "So what do you suggest?" "Therapy support groups. Talking about our feelings until we magically feel better. Maybe. Or maybe we just admit that we're not okay. That we're scared and confused and we don't know what comes next. Maybe that's enough." Claire looked at him. Really looked at him. This kid who'd almost died. Who visited her every day. Who'd somehow become the closest thing she had to a friend. "I have nightmares," she said quietly. "Every time I close my eyes, I'm back in that alley. I feel the knives going in. I feel your blood on my hands. I hear those men laughing, and I wake up and I don't know where I am." "Me too. Except in my dreams, you don't get up. You die in that alley, and I can't do anything to stop it." "I didn't die." "I know, but my brain doesn't care. It keeps showing me that version, over and over." They sat with that for a moment. Two people who'd survived something terrible and were still figuring out what survival actually meant. "Rosa said something today," Claire said, "about how I think needing help makes me weak. And she's right. I've spent my whole life being the helper, the one who shows up, the one who saves people. Being the one who needs saving, it feels like failure. It's not failure, it's just being human. Everyone keeps saying that, but I don't know how to be human anymore. I forgot how, or maybe I never learned in the first place." Ethan picked up another Lego piece, turned it over in his hands. "My therapist, the one the course makes me see, she says that trauma rewires your brain, changes how you see the world, makes you think everything's dangerous, that you can't trust anyone, that you have to be on guard all the time. You see a therapist? Have to. Part of the deal after what happened. They want to make sure I'm not going to crack." He paused. "Are you seeing anyone like professionally?" "No, I probably should, but I keep thinking I can handle it on my own." "How's that working out?" "Terribly." He smiled slightly. "Yeah, same. Maybe we're both idiots." "Definitely." They went back to building. The Millennium Falcon was taking shape now, becoming recognizable. Progress. "Ethan." "Yeah, thank you. For being honest with me. For not pretending everything's fine." "Right back at you." The next morning brought pain that made Claire wish she'd stayed in the hospital. Her wounds were healing, but healing hurt. Every movement pulled at stitches. Every breath reminded her that her lung had collapsed. Every time she tried to lift her arm, her shoulder screamed. Maria appeared with breakfast and a knowing look. "Bad night." "Is it that obvious? You're pale, sweating, gritting your teeth. So yeah, pretty obvious." She set down the tray and pulled a pill bottle from her pocket. Dr. Martinez prescribed these. For breakthrough pain, you're due for one. I don't like taking pain medication. It makes me fuzzy, and being in agony makes you heal faster. Take the pill, Claire. Claire took the pill. Within 20 minutes, the edge came off. The pain didn't disappear, but it became manageable, distant, like something happening to someone else. Better? Maria asked. Yeah, thanks. Don't thank me. Just take the medication when you need it. Pride doesn't heal wounds. Medicine does. Maria sat down on the edge of the bed. Can I tell you something? Sure. When Ethan told me what happened, when he told me you took those knives for him, I couldn't breathe. I sat down in the middle of my kitchen, and I couldn't catch my breath. Because my baby boy almost died, and some stranger saved him. Mrs. Cruz, let me finish. I couldn't breathe because I was so grateful, but also because I was so angry. Angry at the men who did this. Angry at the system that let it happen. Angry at the universe for putting my son in that situation. But mostly I was angry at myself. Why? Because I wasn't there. I couldn't protect him. I'm his mother, and I wasn't there when he needed me most. You were. A stranger was a better mother to my son in that moment than I could be. That's not Mrs. Cruz, that's not how it works. You can't protect your kids from everything. No parent can. I know that, up here, she tapped her head. But in here, she pressed her hand to her chest. In here, I feel like I failed him, and I can never repay you for being there when I wasn't. You don't need to repay me. You're already doing it, by letting me stay here, by taking care of me. That's not payment. That's just what we do, what family does. Maria wiped her eyes. I know you didn't have an easy childhood. Ethan told me. Your parents, the divorce moving around. I know you learned to take care of yourself because no one else would. But that stops now. You hear me? You're part of this family now, and we take care of our own. Claire felt tears sliding down her face. I don't know how to be part of a family. Then we'll teach you. It's not complicated. You show up. You let us show up for you. That's it. That's the whole deal. What if I mess it up? Then you mess it up. We'll still be here. That's what family means. You don't get kicked out for being imperfect. You get loved anyway. After Maria left, Claire lay there and cried. Not from pain, from something else. Something that felt like grief and relief mixed together. Grief for the childhood she never had. Relief that maybe it wasn't too late to have something different now. The afternoon brought an unexpected visitor. Detective Morrison appeared at her door looking apologetic. I'm sorry to bother you, he said, but there's been a development. Claire's stomach dropped. What kind of development? The men who attacked you and Corporal Cruz, they're trying to cut a deal. Their lawyers claiming you were the aggressor, that you attacked them first and they were just defending themselves. That's insane. I know, but they're desperate, and desperate people lie. He pulled out his notebook. I need you to walk me through it again, everything that happened, every detail you can remember. So Claire did, starting from the convenience store, finding Ethan, the men approaching her decision to stay. Every word they'd said, every moment before the first knife. Morrison took notes. This is going to trial. You know that, right? You'll have to testify. So will Corporal Cruz. It won't be easy. Nothing about this has been easy. No, but you're tough. You'll get through it. He closed his notebook. One more thing. The media's still asking about you, especially after the Marines announced they're giving you the Distinguished Public Service Medal whether you want it or not. They can't just... They can, and they are. The ceremony's in 3 weeks. You don't have to make a speech. You don't have to do anything except show up and accept the medal, but they're doing it publicly, with press. I don't want that. I know, but sometimes what we want doesn't matter. Sometimes we have to do things because they're bigger than us. This medal, it's not really about you. It's about what you represent. It's about showing that ordinary people can do extraordinary things, that civilians and military can support each other, that courage doesn't require a uniform. I'm not courageous, I'm just stubborn. Morrison smiled. In my experience, there's not much difference. He stood to leave. Think about it, the ceremony. It might bring you some closure, might help you move forward. After he left, Claire felt the weight of it settling over her. A trial, testimony, a public ceremony with press. Everything she'd wanted to avoid was coming for her anyway. Ethan found her an hour later staring at the wall. Morrison came by, she said. I know. He talked to me too, about the trial. They're going to make us relive it, every detail, in front of a courtroom full of strangers. Yeah. I don't know if I can do that. Ethan sat down beside her. Then we'll do it together. You won't be alone up there. I'll be right there with you. You shouldn't have to do this. Any of this. You were the victim. You were trying to do the right thing and you almost died for it. And you did do the right thing and almost died for it. We're in this together, Claire. Whether we like it or not, she looked at him. Do you ever regret it? Following that truck, taking those photos. If you'd just looked the other way, none of this would have happened. Every day. But then I think if I'd looked the other way, those weapons would have ended up on the street. People would have died. Maybe Marines, maybe civilians, maybe both. So yeah, I regret that it happened, but I don't regret the choice. Even though you almost died, even though, he paused. Do you regret stopping trying to help me? Claire thought about it, really thought about it. No. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that 2 men tried to murder you. I regret that I got stabbed 7 times. But I don't regret the choice. I'd make it again. Even knowing how it turned out. Especially knowing how it turned out. Because you're alive. Because we both are. Because... She stopped trying to find the words. Because for once in my life, I was there when it mattered. I didn't show up too late. I didn't watch someone die because I couldn't help them. I was there and I made a difference. You made all the difference. They sat in silence for a while. Outside, Claire could hear the brothers playing basketball, Maria calling them in for dinner. Normal family sounds, the kind she'd never had. The Marines want to give me a medal, she finally said. I heard. Are you going to accept it? I don't have a choice, apparently. Morrison said it's happening whether I like it or not. It's in 3 weeks. I'll be there. My whole family will be there. You won't be alone. I feel like I keep saying this, but I don't know how to do this. Any of this. Being in the spotlight. Being called a hero. Having people care about me. Then we'll figure it out together. 1 day at a time. 1 hour at a time if we have to. But you don't have to figure it out alone. Claire leaned her head against his shoulder, careful of her wounds. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You were just too stubborn to notice. She laughed, and it hurt, but it also felt good. Like maybe healing wasn't just about wounds closing. Maybe it was also about learning to laugh again, learning to trust again, learning to let people in. Ethan. Yeah. I'm glad you didn't die in that alley. I'm glad you didn't either. Even though everything's complicated now. Especially because everything's complicated now. Complicated means we're alive. Complicated means we matter to each other. Complicated means we have to figure things out instead of just going through the motions. I'll take complicated over empty any day. Me too, Claire said softly. Me too. That night, Claire had the nightmare again. The alley, the knives, the blood. But this time when she woke up gasping, she wasn't alone. Maria was there, sitting in the chair beside her bed. You're okay, Maria said quietly. You're safe. You're here. How did you... I heard you cry out. Thought you might need someone. Claire tried to catch her breath, tried to slow her racing heart. I'm sorry I woke you. Don't be. That's what I'm here for. Maria handed her a glass of water. Want to talk about it? Not really. Okay, then I'll just sit here until you fall back asleep. You don't have to. I want to. So hush. Drink your water. Close your eyes. I'll be right here. Claire did, and with Maria sitting beside her keeping watch, she fell back asleep. And this time there were no nightmares. Just the quiet sound of someone else's breathing. Just the knowledge that she wasn't alone anymore. Just the beginning of learning what it meant to be part of something bigger than herself. And maybe that was its own kind of healing. The morning started with Maria insisting Claire come to the kitchen for breakfast instead of eating in bed. "You've been hiding in that room for 4 days," Maria said, hands on her hips. "Time to join the living." "I'm not hiding. I'm recovering. You can recover at the kitchen table. Come on, the boys are waiting." Claire moved slowly, her body still protesting every step, but she made it to the kitchen where all 4 brothers were already seated. They erupted into applause the moment she appeared. "There she is," Diego said, "the woman who refuses to stay down." "Sit," Maria commanded, pointing to an empty chair. "Eat." The table was covered with food: eggs, bacon, pancakes, fruit toast, enough to feed an army, which Claire supposed was exactly what Maria was used to doing. "Mom thinks food solves everything," Marco said, loading his plate. "Food does solve everything," Maria shot back. "You boys were nightmares until I fed you. Then you were tolerable." "Barely tolerable," Luis added, grinning at Claire. "She's told us stories. Apparently we were demons." "You were creative," Maria corrected. "Diego once convinced Marco that the vacuum cleaner ate small children. Marco didn't go near it for 3 years. "I was protecting myself," Marco protested. "You were 7. The banter continued warm and easy, and Claire found herself relaxing into it. This was what a family sounded like, what it felt like, the teasing, the laughter, the shared history that bound them together. "So," Diego said, turning to Claire, "Ethan says you're an EMT. Am. I don't know what I am right now." "You're on medical leave," Ethan said. "That's temporary. You'll go back." "Will I can barely walk across a room without needing a break. How am I supposed to carry equipment, lift patients, run emergency calls?" "One day at a time," Maria said firmly. "You're 3 weeks out from major trauma. Give yourself grace." "Grace isn't going to pay my rent." The table went quiet. Claire realized she'd said too much, revealed too much of her worry. "Your rent's covered," Diego said. "What?" "We took care of it, me and the boys. We called your landlord, explained the situation, paid up for the next 3 months. Claire's fork clattered to her plate. "You what?" "You needed help. We helped. It's not complicated." "I can't accept that. You can't just pay my rent." "Too late. Already done." Diego went back to his eggs like this was completely normal. "Consider it a thank you for saving our brother's life." "But that's too much. That's thousands of dollars. And you took 7 knives. I'd say we're not even close to even." Claire looked around the table. They were all nodding like this made perfect sense, like paying a stranger's rent was just something people did. "I'll pay you back," she said. "Every penny, as soon as I'm back to work." "If you want," Diego said. "But you don't have to. We're good for it." After breakfast, Rosa arrived for physical therapy and immediately made Claire regret eating so much. "Today we're working on stairs," Rosa announced. "I live in a 1-story house. But the rest of the world doesn't. You need to be able to handle stairs. So let's go." The crew's house had a small set of stairs leading down to the backyard. 5 steps. They might as well have been Everest. Claire made it down 3 before her legs started shaking. "Keep going," Rosa said. "You're doing fine." "I'm not doing fine. I'm dying." "If you were dying, you'd be on the ground. You're standing. That's not dying. That's succeeding. Now 1 more step." Claire took the 4th step, then the 5th. Her legs were trembling, sweat running down her back despite the cool morning air. "Good. Now back up." "You're kidding." "Do I look like I'm kidding?" Claire made it back up, barely. By the time she reached the top, she was shaking and close to tears. "Excellent," Rosa said. "Tomorrow we'll do it twice." "Tomorrow I'm calling in sick." "No, you're not. You're going to show up and do the work because that's what recovery looks like. It's not pretty. It's not easy. But it's necessary." After Rosa left, Claire collapsed on the couch in the living room. Ethan found her there 20 minutes later, still trying to catch her breath. "That bad?" "Worse. Rosa's a sadist. She's good at her job. There's a difference." He sat down beside her. Want to work on the Falcon? Can't. Arms don't work. Nothing works. Then I'll work and you can supervise. He brought the half-finished Lego set to the coffee table and started building. Claire watched, too exhausted to do anything else. It was oddly soothing watching his hands work, seeing the ship take shape piece by piece. Can I ask you something? Claire said after a while. Always. Why are you doing this? Really, you could be out with friends, living your life. Instead, you're here babysitting me. Ethan set down the piece he was holding. You think I'm babysitting you, aren't you? No, I'm spending time with someone I care about. There's a difference. You barely know me. I know you took 7 knives for me. I know you refused to move even when you were bleeding out. I know you have nightmares about that alley. I know you hate asking for help. I know you eat your eggs scrambled, but you're too polite to tell my mom when she makes them over easy. I know you're terrified of going back to work because you're afraid you won't be good enough anymore. That's not barely knowing someone. That's knowing the parts that matter. Claire felt tears prickling her eyes. How do you know about the eggs? You push them around your plate instead of eating them. It's not hard to figure out. I didn't want to be rude. You could never be rude. You're too busy trying to be perfect for everyone else. But you don't have to be perfect here. You can just be you. What if who I am isn't enough? Then you'd be wrong, because who you are is exactly enough. Before Claire could respond, Marco burst through the front door, holding his phone up like a trophy. You're famous, he announced. What? Look. He shoved the phone in her face. It showed a news article with the headline, Local EMT takes 7 knives defending injured Marine. Claire's stomach dropped. Where did they get that? Someone at the hospital leaked it. Or maybe the police, does it matter? It's everywhere. Channel 8, Channel 10, the Union Tribune. You're all over social media. Make it stop. Can't stop the internet, Claire. You're viral. Maria appeared from the kitchen, took one look at Claire's face, and snatched Marco's phone. Enough. She doesn't need to see that. But it's good press. Look, people are calling her a hero, saying she deserves a medal. Oh wait, she's getting one. In 3 weeks. That's in here too. Marco, Maria's voice was steel. Out. Now. He left, still scrolling through his phone. Maria sat down on Claire's other side. Ignore him. He doesn't understand boundaries. Is it really everywhere? Probably. But that doesn't mean you have to engage with it. Let them talk. Let them write their articles. You just focus on healing. But Claire couldn't focus on anything except the fact that her face was apparently all over the news. That strangers were reading about the worst night of her life, that people she'd never met were calling her a hero when she still felt like a person who'd barely survived. That night, Claire couldn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about the news articles, the upcoming ceremony, the trial that was coming. Everything felt like it was closing in. She got up carefully and made her way to the kitchen for water. Ethan was already there, sitting at the table in the dark. Can't sleep either, he asked. Too much in my head. Same. He gestured to the chair across from him. Want some company? Claire sat. They didn't talk for a while, just shared the silence and the darkness. I talked to my therapist today, Ethan finally said. About the trial. About having to testify. What did she say? That it's normal to be scared. That reliving trauma is one of the hardest things we can do. But that facing it head on is also how we move past it. Do you believe that? I don't know. I want to. But part of me thinks talking about it is just going to make it worse. Like picking at a wound that's trying to heal. Yeah, I know that feeling. She suggested you might want to talk to someone too, a therapist. Someone who specializes in trauma. I can't afford that. The VA covers it. For victims of violent crimes, you qualify. Claire thought about it. About sitting in a room with a stranger and talking about the alley, about the knives, about dying for 90 seconds. About all the things she'd spent her life not talking about because talking never seemed to help. I'll think about it, she said. That's all I'm asking. They sat in silence again. Outside, a car drove past headlights, briefly illuminating the kitchen before fading back to darkness. Ethan. Yeah. Are you scared about the trial? Terrified. Their lawyer's going to try to make me look bad. Make it seem like I deserved what happened, that I was sticking my nose where it didn't belong. You were trying to stop criminals. I was going outside the chain of command, not following protocol. They're going to use that against me. That's not fair. No, but it's how the system works. They'll attack my character. They'll attack yours too. They'll try to make it seem like we're lying, like we provoked them, like we wanted this to happen. Claire felt sick. How do you know all this? The prosecutor briefed me, warned me what to expect, said it's going to be brutal, but that if we both tell the truth, if we're consistent in our stories, we'll win. And if we don't, then 2 men who tried to murder me walk free, and the smuggling ring keeps operating, and more people get hurt. The weight of it settled over Claire like a blanket made of lead. I don't know if I'm strong enough for this. You're strong enough. You're the strongest person I know. I'm not. I'm really not. I'm falling apart. I can barely make it up 5 stairs without crying. I have nightmares every night. I can't even look at the news without panicking. How am I supposed to get on a witness stand and face those men? Ethan reached across the table and took her hand. The same way you stayed in that alley. 1 second at a time. 1 breath at a time. And you won't be alone. I'll be right there. You can't be in the courtroom while I testify. No, but I'll be right outside. And the moment you're done, I'll be there. We'll get through this together. Claire wanted to believe him, wanted to believe that together was enough. But she'd spent so long being alone that trusting in together felt like jumping off a cliff without knowing if there was ground below. The next morning brought a phone call from the prosecutor. Her name was Jennifer Walsh, and her voice was all business. Miss Jensen, I need to meet with you before the trial. Go over your testimony. Prepare you for what the defense is going to do. When? Tomorrow, if possible, I can come to you. Okay. And Miss Jensen, I need you to know this is going to be difficult. The defense attorney is going to try to break you. He's going to suggest you're lying, that you misremembered, that you were trying to be a hero and made a bad situation worse. You cannot let him get to you. How do I do that? You tell the truth. You stay calm. You remember that you did nothing wrong, and you trust that the jury will see through his tactics. After she hung up, Claire sat with the phone in her hand and tried to imagine being on a witness stand. Tried to imagine those men's faces. Tried to imagine their lawyer calling her a liar. She couldn't do it. She couldn't go through with it. But she had to. Because if she didn't, they'd get away with it. They'd tried to kill Ethan. They'd stabbed her 7 times. And they'd do it again to someone else if they weren't stopped. Maria found her an hour later still sitting in the same spot. Jennifer Walsh called me, Maria said. Told me about tomorrow. Do you want me there? You don't have to. That's not what I asked. Do you want me there? Claire thought about facing the prosecutor alone, about going over every detail of that night without anyone in her corner. Yes, I want you there. Then I'll be there. The meeting with Jennifer Walsh happened in the crew's living room. The prosecutor was younger than Claire expected, maybe 40, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She set up her laptop and pulled out a legal pad covered in notes. Let's start from the beginning. Tell me everything you remember about that night. So Claire did. Again. Starting with the convenience store hearing Ethan finding him in the alley, the men approaching. She went through it methodically, trying to remember every detail, every word, every moment. Walsh took notes, stopped her occasionally to clarify details, to ask follow-up questions. When the first man told you to walk away, what exactly did he say? Walk away, lady. This doesn't concern you. And what did you say? I told him I was an EMT, that I'd called 911, that the man needed medical attention. Had you actually called 911? No, I was bluffing. Why? I thought it might scare them off, make them think help was already coming. Walsh made a note. The defense is going to use that. They're going to say you lied, that you were trying to provoke them. I was trying to save a man's life. I know that, but they're going to twist it, make it seem like you escalated the situation. She looked up from her notes. When they started stabbing you, why didn't you move? Because if I moved, Ethan would have died. You're sure of that? Yes. He was bleeding out. Without direct pressure on the wound, he had maybe 5 minutes, less probably. So you made a conscious decision to stay, knowing they would continue to stab you. Yes. Why? Claire paused. This was the question everyone kept asking, the one she still didn't have a good answer for. Because I couldn't let him die. Because I was there. Because someone had to. Walsh studied her for a long moment. That's good. That's honest. But the defense is going to try to make it sound irrational. Like you were seeking glory. Like you wanted to be a hero. I didn't want to be anything. I just wanted him to live. Then that's what you tell the jury. You stay calm. You stay honest. And you don't let them twist your words. They went over it again, and again, and again. By the 4th time through, Claire's head was pounding and her hands were shaking. That's enough for today, Walsh finally said. But we'll do this again before trial. You need to be able to tell this story without falling apart, because if you break down on the stand, the defense will use it against you. How? They'll suggest you're unreliable, emotional, not a credible witness. I've seen it happen. So you need to be rock solid up there. After Walsh left, Claire went to her room and cried. Not from pain, from the sheer exhaustion of having to relive that night over and over, of having to prove that she was telling the truth, of having to justify a decision that should have been obvious. A knock on her door. Claire, Ethan's voice. Can I come in? Yeah. He entered, saw her face, and immediately sat down beside her on the bed. That bad. She kept asking why I didn't move. Like it was irrational. Like I should have just run. But you couldn't run. No, but explaining why is it's like trying to explain why you breathe. You just do. You don't think about it. You just do what needs to be done. The jury will understand that. Will they? Walsh seems to think they'll need convincing. That the defense is going to paint me as some kind of glory-seeking idiot who made a bad situation worse. Then we prove them wrong. We tell the truth and we prove them wrong. Claire leaned her head on his shoulder. I'm so tired. I'm tired of being brave. Tired of being strong. Tired of having to prove I did the right thing. I just want it to be over. It will be. After the trial, after the ceremony, after all of this. It'll be over and we can move forward. You keep saying that. But what if there is no moving forward? What if this is just who we are now? The EMT who got stabbed and the Marine who almost died. What if that's all we'll ever be? Ethan was quiet for a moment. Then we figure out how to be okay with that. Together. The days leading up to the ceremony passed in a blur of physical therapy, nightmare-filled nights, and growing anxiety. Claire's body was healing, but her mind felt like it was unraveling thread by thread. The morning of the ceremony, Maria appeared in Claire's doorway with a dress. You're not wearing sweats to receive a medal, she announced. I was planning on it. No, you're wearing this. It's dignified but comfortable. Perfect for someone who's still recovering. Claire took the dress. It was simple navy blue, nothing fancy. I don't want to do this. I know, but you're doing it anyway. So get dressed. We leave in an hour. The ceremony was being held at Marine Corps Air Station Miramar. By the time they arrived, Claire's hands were shaking so badly she could barely unbuckle her seatbelt. Breathe, Maria said. In through your nose, out through your mouth. You can do this. There are news cameras. Ignore them. Focus on one point. Get through it. Then we go home. The auditorium was packed. Marines in dress uniform, officers, civilians, press lining the back wall with cameras. Claire wanted to run, wanted to disappear, wanted to be anywhere else. But Ethan was beside her and Maria was on her other side and Diego, Marco, and Luis were right behind them. She wasn't alone. They were led to seats in the front row. A general Claire didn't recognize walked to the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here today to honor a civilian who demonstrated extraordinary courage in the face of danger. Miss Claire Jensen, a local EMT, placed herself between danger and one of our own. In doing so, she took 7 stab wounds. She nearly gave her life, but she never moved. She never gave up. And because of her actions, Corporal Ethan Cruz is alive today. The general continued talking, but Claire stopped hearing it. She was back in the alley, feeling the knives, feeling the blood, feeling the terror and the determination and the absolute certainty that she couldn't move. "Miss Jensen, please come forward." Ethan squeezed her hand. Claire stood on shaking legs and walked to the stage. Every step felt like climbing a mountain. The general held out a small box. Inside was a metal bronze and heavy and inscribed with words Claire couldn't focus on. "For distinguished service to the United States Marine Corps," the general said. "For valor beyond measure. For placing the life of another above your own. We present you with the Distinguished Public Service Medal." Applause erupted. Claire stood there holding the box, trying not to cry, trying not to break down in front of all these people. The general leaned in close. "You didn't just save a Marine, Miss Jensen. You reminded all of us what true courage looks like. Thank you." Then it was over. She was back in her seat. Maria was hugging her. Ethan was crying. The brothers were cheering. And Claire was holding a medal she didn't want for a choice she'd make again in a heartbeat. After the ceremony, they went back to the Cruz house. Claire went straight to her room and put the medal in a drawer. She didn't want to look at it. Didn't want to think about what it represented. A knock on her door. "Claire," Ethan's voice. "You okay?" "No, but I will be." He came in, closed the door behind him. "That was brutal." "Yeah, but you did it. You got through it." "Barely." "Barely still counts." He sat down beside her. "What are you thinking?" "That I want my life back. I want to go back to before that night, before any of this happened. I want to be anonymous again. I want to just be an EMT doing her job without everyone watching." "I know. Me too." They sat in silence. Outside, they could hear the brothers arguing about something, heard Maria telling them to take it outside. "The trial's in 2 weeks, Ethan said quietly. "I know." "Are you ready?" "No, but I don't think I'll ever be ready. So I guess it doesn't matter." "It matters. You matter." Claire looked at him. This kid who'd become her anchor, her friend. Maybe more than friend, though neither of them had said it out loud. "Thank you," she said, "for everything. For being here. For not giving up on me. For just being you. Right back at you." And sitting there in the quiet of her borrowed room with the medal hidden in a drawer and the trial looming ahead, Claire thought that maybe, just maybe, she could survive this after all. Not because she was brave, not because she was strong, but because she wasn't alone anymore. And sometimes that was enough. The courthouse smelled like old wood and anxiety. Claire sat on a bench outside the courtroom, hands clasped tight in her lap, trying to keep her breathing steady. Maria sat beside her, a solid presence that kept Claire from completely falling apart. Ethan was somewhere inside, already waiting to testify first. "You're going to be fine," Maria said for the 10th time that morning. "You don't know that." "Yes, I do. Because you're tough. And because you're telling the truth. That's all you have to do up there. Tell the truth." Jennifer Walsh appeared around the corner, heels clicking on the marble floor. "Claire, we're ready for you. Ethan just finished his testimony." The defense attorney tried to rattle him, but he held steady. "Now it's your turn." Claire's stomach dropped. What did they ask him? Everything. Why he was in that alley. Why he didn't run. Whether he provoked the attack. Standard stuff. He handled it well. You will too. Walsh led her toward the courtroom doors. Claire could see through the small window, could see the judge, the jury. And in the defendant's box, she could see them. The 2 men who'd stabbed her. They looked smaller than she remembered, less threatening in their suits and ties. But when the shorter one's eyes met hers through the glass, she saw the same cold calculation, the same lack of remorse. "I can't do this," Claire whispered. "Yes, you can," Walsh said firmly. "You've already done the hard part. You survived. This is just talking about it, and I'll be right there. If you need a break, you tell the judge. If you need water, you ask. You're in control up there, Claire, not them. The bailiff opened the door. Claire Jensen to the stand. Claire walked in on legs that barely worked. Every eye in the courtroom was on her. She could see Ethan in the gallery leaning forward, willing her strength. Could see the Cruz family filling an entire row. Could see reporters with their notebooks ready. Please raise your right hand, the bailiff said. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Please be seated. Claire sat. The witness box felt like a cage. Walsh approached with a kind smile. Please state your name for the record. Claire Jensen. And what do you do for a living, Miss Jensen? I'm an EMT, an emergency medical technician. How long have you been an EMT? 6 years. So you're trained in emergency medicine, in trauma response, in assessing dangerous situations. Yes. On the night of September 12th, where were you? I was finishing my shift. I stopped at a convenience store to buy groceries. What time was this? Around 11:45 p.m. And what happened? Claire took a breath. I heard someone in distress, a coughing sound, the kind that means someone's injured, so I went to investigate. And what did you find? I found a young man, Corporal Ethan Cruz, in an alley. He was bleeding from a stab wound to his abdomen. He was in critical condition. What did you do? I identified myself as an EMT. I applied direct pressure to the wound. I attempted to call 911. Attempted. 2 men appeared before I could complete the call. They told me to walk away. And did you? No. Why not? Claire looked at the jury. 12 faces watching her, judging her. Because Corporal Cruz would have died without immediate medical intervention. He was bleeding out. He needed help. I was there, so I helped. What happened next? They told me again to leave. I refused. I positioned myself between them and Corporal Cruz. I maintained pressure on his wound. And then, they stabbed me. How many times? 7 times. A murmur went through the courtroom. The judge tapped his gavel once. 7 times, Walsh repeated. And during this attack, did you move from your position protecting Corporal Cruz? No. Why not? Because if I moved, he would have died. You're certain of that? Yes. In my professional opinion as an EMT, without continuous direct pressure on that wound, Corporal Cruz would have bled out within minutes. So you chose to continue protecting him even as you were being stabbed? Yes. Even though you could have run, could have saved yourself. I couldn't save myself and save him, so I chose him. Walsh nodded, made a note on her legal pad. What do you remember about the men who attacked you? They were calm, methodical. They weren't attacking in a panic or self-defense. They were trying to complete a job, trying to kill Corporal Cruz and anyone who got in their way. Did either of them say anything that indicated why they were there? The shorter one said Corporal Cruz should have thought about consequences before he opened his mouth, before he decided to be a hero. It was clear they were there to silence him. Objection, the defense attorney stood. Speculation. Sustained, the judge said. The jury will disregard the witness's interpretation. Walsh moved on. What happened after the attack? I lost consciousness. I woke up in the hospital. I'd been stabbed 7 times. 1 lung collapsed. Liver damage. Kidney damage. I died for 90 seconds on the operating table. Another murmur. More scribbling from the reporters. And Corporal Cruz survived because I didn't move. Thank you, Miss Jensen. Walsh returned to her seat. Your witness. The defense attorney stood. He was older, gray-haired, with the kind of smile that never reached his eyes. Claire's hands started shaking. Miss Jensen, he said, walking toward her slowly. You testified that you're an EMT, that you're trained in assessing dangerous situations. Yes. So you knew this situation was dangerous. Yes. You knew these men were armed. I suspected it. Yes. And yet you chose to engage with them rather than retreating to safety and calling for help. I chose to save a man's life. Or did you choose to be a hero? He smiled that empty smile. Isn't it true, Miss Jensen, that you've lost patients in the past, that you have a history of arriving too late to save them? Walsh shot to her feet. Objection. Relevance. Your Honor, it goes to the witness's state of mind, her motivation for engaging in reckless behavior. I'll allow it, the judge said. But be careful, counselor. The defense attorney turned back to Claire. Please answer the question. Have you lost patients? Yes, every EMT has. And doesn't that weigh on you? Don't you carry that guilt? Yes. So when you saw Corporal Cruz in that alley injured and helpless, didn't you see an opportunity, a chance to finally save someone, to be the hero for once? Claire's hands were shaking harder now. No, I saw a person who needed help. A person you didn't know. A stranger. And yet you were willing to die for him. That's not normal behavior, Miss Jensen. That's the behavior of someone seeking redemption. Someone trying to make up for past failures. Objection. Walsh was on her feet again, badgering the witness. Sustained. Move on, counselor. The defense attorney didn't move on. You testified that my clients were calm, methodical. But isn't it true that you approached them in a threatening manner, that you refused to comply with their request to leave? I was protecting a dying man. Or you were escalating a volatile situation. You admitted you lied about calling 911. Isn't lying a form of provocation? I was trying to scare them off. Or you were trying to be a hero. And in doing so, you put yourself and Corporal Cruz in greater danger. If you'd simply called 911 and waited for proper authorities, wouldn't everyone have been safer? Claire felt tears starting, felt the anger rising. If I'd left, Corporal Cruz would be dead. You don't know that. Yes, I do. That's my job. That's what I've been trained to know. And I'm telling you, as a medical professional, that man would have died without immediate intervention. But you're not a doctor, are you, Miss Jensen? You're an EMT. You don't make life and death decisions. You stabilize and transport. Isn't it true that you exceeded your training that night, that you made a judgment call that wasn't yours to make? I made the only call I could make. Or you made the call that fit your narrative, the call that made you a hero. He turned to the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a young woman who carries tremendous guilt about patients she couldn't save, who saw an opportunity to change that narrative. And in doing so, she made a dangerous situation worse. My clients were defending themselves against someone who refused to leave, someone who was aggressive and confrontational, someone who was seeking glory at any cost. That's a lie, Claire said. Her voice was shaking but loud. I wasn't seeking anything except to save a man's life. Your clients tried to murder him. They stabbed me 7 times because I wouldn't let them finish the job. I almost died in that alley, not for glory, not for redemption, but because it was the right thing to do. The defense attorney smiled. The right thing. Yes, the thing that got you a medal, media attention, made you famous. Tell me, Miss Jensen, how many interview requests have you received since this incident? I don't know. I didn't accept any of them. But you accepted the medal. You accepted the recognition, the Distinguished Public Service Medal from the Marine Corps. That must have felt good. No, it felt heavy. Heavy. Interesting word choice. Heavy with responsibility, heavy with guilt, or heavy with the weight of a lie. Objection! Walsh was shouting now. Your Honor, this is completely inappropriate. Sustained. Counselor, that's enough. One more question like that and you'll be held in contempt. But the damage was done. Claire could see it in some of the jurors' faces. The doubt, the question. Was she really a hero or just someone who'd made a bad situation worse? No further questions, the defense attorney said, returning to his seat looking satisfied. Claire stepped down from the witness box on shaking legs. She walked past the defense table, past those 2 men who'd tried to kill her, past the gallery where Ethan was watching with tears on his face. She made it to the hallway before she collapsed. Maria caught her. I've got you. You're okay. You did so good. I didn't. I fell apart. I let him twist everything. No, you told the truth. That's all that matters. Walsh appeared. Claire, that was excellent. You held your ground. You didn't let him break you. He made me sound like a glory-seeking idiot. He made himself sound desperate. The jury saw that, trust me. She checked her watch. We're in recess for an hour, then closing arguments, then it goes to the jury. How long will they take? Could be hours, could be days. There's no way to know. Ethan found them in the hallway. He pulled Claire into a hug, careful of her still healing wounds. You were amazing, he said. You told them exactly what happened. Their lawyer made me sound crazy. He made himself sound desperate. You were credible. You were honest. That's what the jury will remember. They waited in a conference room during closing arguments. Walsh came in after looking cautiously optimistic. It's out of our hands now, she said. The jury's deliberating. Could be a while. It took 6 hours. 6 hours of Claire pacing, trying to eat the sandwiches Maria brought, failing to keep anything down. 6 hours of replaying her testimony, wondering what she could have said differently. 6 hours of imagining those men walking free. Finally, a text from Walsh. Jury's back. Verdict's in. They filed back into the courtroom. Claire's heart was hammering so hard she thought everyone could hear it. The two men were brought back in. They looked confident. Too confident. Has the jury reached a verdict? The judge asked. We have, Your Honor. On the charge of attempted murder of Corporal Ethan Cruz, how do you find? We find the defendants guilty. Claire's knees went weak. Ethan grabbed her hand. On the charge of attempted murder of Claire Jensen, how do you find? We find the defendants guilty. The shorter man's face went white. The taller one started shouting, had to be restrained by bailiffs. But Claire didn't hear any of it. She was crying. Maria was hugging her. Ethan was holding her hand so tight it hurt. Sentencing will be in 30 days, the judge said. Defendants are remanded into custody. This court is adjourned. Walsh came over smiling. You did it. You both did it. They're really going to prison. For a long time. Attempted murder carries serious time. Plus the weapons charges, the smuggling charges, they're looking at 20 years minimum. 20 years. Claire thought about that. 20 years those men wouldn't be able to hurt anyone else. 20 years Ethan would be safe. 20 years she could try to rebuild her life. They left the courthouse together, all of them stepping into afternoon sunshine that felt brighter than it had any right to be. Reporters were waiting, shouting questions, but Diego and Marco formed a wall between them and Claire. No comment, Diego said firmly. Give her space. They made it to the car, made it back to the Cruz house, made it through the door before Claire finally broke down completely. Not from fear, not from pain, from relief so overwhelming it felt like drowning. It's over, Maria said, holding her. It's finally over. But it wasn't over. Not really. Because the next day, Claire had to figure out what came next. She couldn't live with the Cruz family forever. Couldn't hide from her life indefinitely. At some point, she had to go home. Had to go back to work. Had to figure out how to be Claire Jensen again, instead of the EMT who took 7 knives. She was sitting on the back porch when Ethan found her that evening. You're thinking too loud, he said, sitting beside her. I need to go home. You are home. No. This is your home. Your family. I need to go back to my apartment, start figuring out my life again. What if you stayed? Claire looked at him. What if you stayed here? Not forever. But until you're really ready. Until you've figured things out. I can't impose on your family forever. You're not imposing. My mom already told me she's going to fight you if you try to leave. So has Diego, and Marco, and Luis. You're stuck with us. But I need to get back to work eventually. Need to start paying my own bills. So do it from here. The hospital's 20 minutes away. You can commute. And when you're ready, really ready, then you look for a new place. But there's no rush. Claire thought about her apartment. Small, empty, lonely. Thought about coming home to silence after every shift. Thought about having nightmares with no one to hear her cry out. Okay, she said quietly, for a little while longer. Good, because I wasn't kidding about my mom fighting you. She's terrifying when she wants to be. They sat in silence for a while. The sun was setting, painting everything gold and orange. What about you? Claire asked. What happens next for you? I go back to base next week, back to regular duty. They're keeping me stateside for a while, which is fine. I've had enough adventure for 1 year. Are you scared going back? Terrified, but also ready. I can't hide here forever either. At some point I have to face it. Face being a Marine again. Face the people who might have been part of the smuggling ring. Face the reality that someone I trusted betrayed me. Did they figure out who leaked your location? Not yet. Investigation's ongoing. But they will. And when they do, that person's going down too. Good. They sat quietly again. A comfortable silence. The kind that only existed between people who'd survived something terrible together. Claire? Yeah. I'm glad you didn't run that night. Me too. Even with everything that happened. Even with the pain and the trial and the nightmares. I'm glad I stayed. Me too. 2 weeks later, Claire went back to work. Part-time at first, just 12-hour shifts twice a week. She was nervous that morning putting on her uniform for the first time in 3 months. The fabric felt foreign against her scars. Maria made her eat breakfast even though Claire's stomach was in knots. You're going to be fine, Maria said. You're good at this job. You've always been good at it. What if I freeze? What if I can't do it anymore? Then you come home and we figure out plan B. But you won't freeze. You're tougher than you think. The first call came 30 minutes into her shift. Car accident, 2 vehicles, possible injuries. Claire's partner, a guy named Jake, who she'd worked with before, looked at her. You good? I don't know yet. They arrived on scene. One car had T-boned another at an intersection. The driver of the first car was conscious but bleeding from a head wound. The second car's driver was unconscious, trapped behind the wheel. Claire's training kicked in. She was moving before she could think about it, assessing injuries, establishing airway, starting IVs, calling for backup. Her hands were steady. Her voice was calm. She was doing her job. It wasn't until they'd transported both patients to the hospital and were cleaning the ambulance that she realized she'd done it. She'd responded to a call. She'd helped people. She'd been an EMT again. Nice work, Jake said. You haven't lost your touch. Thanks. I wasn't sure. I know, but you did good. Really good. That night, Claire came home to the cruise house, which had somehow become home, and told them about the call, about how she'd been terrified but had done it anyway, about how it had felt to be useful again. I'm proud of you, Maria said, hugging her tight. So proud. Ethan just smiled. Told you, you're tougher than you think. The weeks turned into months. Claire kept working, building back her strength and confidence. The nightmares didn't stop, but they became less frequent. The scars faded, but never disappeared. She'd carry them forever, physical reminders of that night in the alley. She moved back into her apartment eventually, but it was different now. Not lonely, because she had the Cruz family. Because she had Ethan, who visited twice a week with Legos and terrible jokes, and the kind of understanding that only came from shared trauma. 6 months after the trial, Claire got a call from an EMT training academy. They wanted her to speak to new recruits, to talk about that night, about making hard choices, about what it meant to be a first responder. She almost said no. But then she thought about all the young EMTs who'd be going out into the world, who'd face impossible decisions, who'd need to know that doing the right thing was worth it even when it cost everything. So she said yes. She stood in front of 40 nervous students and told them the truth. Not the hero version, not the media version, the real version. About being scared, about choosing to stay anyway, about how courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. You're going to face calls that test you, she said. Calls where there's no good option, where every choice costs something. And in those moments, you have to decide what matters most. For me, it was a stranger's life. For you, it might be something different. But whatever it is, you have to be able to live with your choice. You have to be able to look yourself in the mirror and know you did everything you could. After the talk, a young woman approached her. She couldn't have been more than 20. I'm scared, she admitted. Scared I won't be good enough. Scared I'll freeze when it matters. Everyone's scared, Claire said, but you'll show up anyway. That's what makes you an EMT. You show up when everyone else runs away. And yeah, sometimes it's terrifying. Sometimes it costs you. But it's also the most important thing you'll ever do. Did you ever regret it? Staying in that alley? Claire thought about it. About the pain, the scars, the nightmares, the trial. About everything that night had cost her. But then she thought about Ethan. About his laugh. About the way he still visited with Legos. About how he was alive because she'd refused to move. No, she said. Not for a second. A year after that night in the alley, Claire stood in the same convenience store where it had all started. She was buying groceries after a shift, same as before. Eggs, milk, bread, something green. The cashier was different. Older woman this time, friendly smile. Long day, she asked. Always, Claire said. But good. She paid and walked to her car. Drove home to her apartment where Ethan was already waiting with takeout and a new Lego set. Tough shift, he asked. Not bad. Couple of minor injuries. One cardiac arrest that we got back. Good day overall. That's great. He opened the food containers. Mom wants to know if you're coming for Sunday dinner. Wouldn't miss it. They ate and built Legos and talked about nothing important, and Claire realized that this was healing. Not the absence of scars or nightmares, not forgetting what happened, but building a life anyway. Building connections. Building something worth fighting for. Ethan. Yeah. I'm glad I met you. Even though the circumstances were terrible, I'm glad. Me too. You changed my life, Claire. You changed mine too. 3 years later, Claire stood at a podium in front of a room full of people. The annual EMT conference. She'd been asked to give the keynote speech about emergency medicine trauma response and the human cost of heroism. She talked about that night, about Ethan, about the choice she'd made, but she also talked about what came after, about healing, about learning to accept help, about finding family in unexpected places. People ask me if I'm a hero, she said, and I tell them no. I'm just a person who refused to look away, who refused to walk past someone in need. You don't need stripes or medals to stand for something. You just need heart. You just need to show up when it matters. She finished her speech to a standing ovation. Afterward, people lined up to talk to her, to thank her, to tell her their own stories of impossible choices and hard-won victories. Ethan waited for her by the door, Maria beside him. They'd both come to support her. The whole Cruz family had. Great speech, Ethan said. It was okay. It was perfect, just like you. Claire laughed. I'm not perfect, I'm just stubborn. Same thing. They walked out together into the bright San Diego sunshine. Claire thought about the woman she'd been 3 years ago, lonely, exhausted, running from connection. Thought about the woman she was now, still scarred, still carrying that night, but surrounded by people who loved her, who saw her at her worst and stayed anyway. You hungry? Maria asked. I'm making enchiladas. Always hungry for your cooking. Good, because I made enough for an army. The boys are coming over too. Diego's bringing his new girlfriend. Marco's bringing his dog. Luis is bringing drama, probably. It'll be chaos. Perfect, Claire said, and she meant it, because chaos meant family. Chaos meant life. Chaos meant she wasn't alone in a sterile apartment eating cereal from the box, watching her life pass by at a distance. That night, surrounded by the Cruz family in their too small living room, eating too much food and laughing too loud, Claire caught Ethan's eye across the room. He raised his glass slightly, a silent toast. She raised hers back, to surviving, to healing, to finding home in the most unexpected places, to the choice she'd made in an alley that had cost her everything and given her everything. Later, as she was leaving, Ethan walked her to her car. You know what I think about sometimes, he said. What? That night. How it could have gone differently. If you'd been 5 minutes earlier or later. If you'd gone to a different store. If I'd taken a different route home. How many tiny choices led to that moment? You think it was fate? I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe it was just chance. But either way, I'm grateful. For all of it. Even the bad parts. Because it brought us here. Claire hugged him. Me too. She drove home through familiar streets, past the convenience store where it had started, past the alley that had changed everything. She didn't look away, didn't avoid it. It was part of her story now, part of who she was. When she got home, she pulled out the medal from the drawer where she'd hidden it. Looked at it, really looked at it for the first time since the ceremony. The weight of it, the meaning of it. It wasn't about glory or recognition. It was about a moment when she'd had to choose between safety and doing what was right. And she'd chosen right. She put it on her shelf where she could see it. A reminder not of heroism, but of choice. Of standing firm when everything said to run. Of believing that one person could make a difference. Her phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "Same time next week for Legos." "Wouldn't miss it," she typed back. And she wouldn't. Because that was the thing about surviving trauma together. You didn't just move on from it. You built something new on top of it. Something stronger. Something worth keeping. Claire Jensen had taken 7 knives in an alley. Had died for 90 seconds. Had faced a trial in a medal ceremony and 1,000 sleepless nights. But she'd also found a family. Found purpose. Found proof that showing up mattered. You don't need stripes to stand for something, she'd told those EMT students. You just need heart. She'd had heart that night in the alley, and she had it still. Scarred but beating. Broken but healing. Human and imperfect and exactly enough. Because at the end of the day, that's all any of us are. Just people trying to do the right thing. Just hearts that refuse to stop beating. Just souls that refuse to look away when someone needs help. And sometimes that's the most heroic thing of all.